Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. Today's episode, we are recapping the full week of Giants camp because we're already 1 week into training camp. There's a little bit less than a week left, and then it's preseason, so a lot to discuss. I want to talk about some of the important notes and things that I have really taken away from training camp so far. The first thing is that Jackson Dart is progressing much faster than I thought he would. He's been able to go through his reads, he knows how to slide, which is very important, and he seems like he's got a good command of the offense so far. Yes, there have been mistakes. Yes, there have been bad throws. Yes, there have been penalties. However, I think he's done a nice job of being able to come back from those. So when there's been a mistake, he's not beating himself up and he doesn't continue to spiral and make mistake after mistake. He's able to switch it off on the next play. When he gets the snap, he's able to get right into the next throw. So I think that's really important. So do I think that means that he's done enough to be the number 2 backup quarterback? No, I don't. I think that preseason is going to be the biggest telling factor as to how much he's progressed once we actually see him live action in a game that's not just Giants players going against Giants players. But I will say I'm pleasantly surprised from what I've seen from him, and he has been getting 99% of the snaps with the 2, so I think that says a lot. The second thing is Russ looks great. He's able to make throws on the move. The moon ball is still the moon ball. He's still accurate and he's able to escape pressure. Now, again, let's see what happens during preseason and the regular season. But between guys like Carter, Burns, and Thibodeau, who all have done a nice job this year of putting pressure on the quarterback and getting there, he's been able to escape that and throw the ball away. He makes good decisions with the ball. I don't think he's had any turnovers. At the very least, it's probably been one. So we know that that's something that the Giants really like about him is he takes care of the ball. So I think Russell is going to be just fine. I think it's very obvious that he is the clear-cut starter. We know the Giants have said that, but it's very obvious to all of us watching that he is indeed the starter and deserves that role. So that is looking good. The third takeaway that I have is the offensive line is looking significantly better than I expected. Now, there have been mistakes. There's been penalties. There's been high snaps. John Michael Schmitz has gotten blown up by Abdul Carter. Yes, the offensive line is not perfect, okay? But I know there's so many concerns from fans, myself included, is to like, what is this offensive line going to look like, especially without Andrew Thomas? What I can say to you is this, is that James Hudson is light years better than I ever expected him to be. I don't know if because he was mostly a backup, I came in with the idea that he was going to be like Evan Neal, where he's just getting blown up by guys left and right and can't stay on his 2 feet. That is not the case. He's had good reps against Abdul Carter, Burns, and Thibodeau. He's had bad reps against them, but he's done a nice job of blocking and holding his own out there. Like I said, significantly better than what I thought we were going to get from him. So I'm actually more excited about him than I ever thought I would be. And, Dable talked about him in one of his pressers, and he said he's got a real edge to him. Like, he's really tough. It's hard to make the guy smile. He's all business all the time. And something that I think we've talked about a bit this offseason specifically is that the guys that this front office and coaching staff has brought in are dogs. Like, they only care about football. Malik Neighbors eats, sleeps, breathes football. Yes, he's happy he's in New York. Even Kayvon has like really made a turn where, you see him doing these brand deals and things like that. And in the offseason, great, fantastic. When football season comes, I don't want to hear you talk about anything except for football. And Kayvon has put his money where his mouth is, and I think there's a renewed sense of focus with him, and you can see it on the field. I think he looks like he's got good speed there. Obviously, I don't know if you guys know this, but he talked about the fact that he focused on doing wrestling this offseason so he could finish because he wanted to be better about getting sacks. He had 5 half sacks last year. He said that's unacceptable. They should be full sacks. So the guys that they have brought in are tough, and I know we always hear smart, tough, dependable, but they're serious about it. Like Brian Burns, the way that he was talking about Abdul Carter, and he's like, look, Abdul Carter is a damn good player. He's going to be a beast out there. But the reality is we've done nothing yet. And I am the one who reminds him of that. We haven't played a single game. We haven't won anything. Until we do that, yes, he's a good football player. He's going to succeed out there. But until we win games, it doesn't mean anything. And I love that there's a sense of hunger between all of these players. I've heard it from all of them. Dexter Lawrence, we haven't done shit yet. Abdul Carter, I know I'm a rookie, but I have to prove it. Cam Scatterby, I haven't done anything on the field. There is a sense of we need to prove ourselves, both to ourselves in the building and everyone outside the building. And I love that. So we've talked about how the energy is different. Kay Adams has said it. Ian Rappaport has said it. Like different people who have been in the national media, who have been at practice said there's a different energy here. And a big part of that is because of the quarterbacks, but it's also because of the other players that they have brought in through free agency and the draft. And we're really seeing that. I think that should be a big takeaway from training camp, is that there is a different type of energy and focus this time around. And it's exciting. I know it's camp. I know it. There's asterisks left and right, but still, the energy carries on. Momentum is a thing. And I think all of that is really important. Another takeaway I have is that the defensive line is going to live up to the hype. Everything that we have seen from them at practice has been unbelievable. And another takeaway that I have when it comes to the defense is we have to have hope in Shane Bowen. I have seen more blitzing from any couple practices than I have since when Wink was here. I've seen Dane Belton go after the quarterback. I've seen Bobby O. I've seen Micah McFadden. I have seen some of the other cornerbacks go rushing towards the quarterback. There have been a lot more different looks than any of us have ever seen. And maybe it's because Shane Bowen feels like he's about to get fired if he doesn't get his shit together. Maybe it's because he finally has the talent that he's been waiting for. He's got veterans in the secondary. He's got Abdul freaking Carter. He's got a healthy Brian Burns. He's got Kayvon Thibodeau, who's rebounded. And of course he has Dexter Lawrence. So I don't know, maybe those things are all big parts of it, but I really believe that Shane Bowen's going to be better this year. This defense is going to live up to the hype, and this defensive line is going to be next level. And I think they're going to be top 5 in the NFL. So I think there's a lot of things to be excited about. Yes, there are still concerns. The run defense doesn't look great. Let's see how that looks once they get to preseason, because I think the biggest thing that I've seen is it's great the offensive line looks better than we expected it to, right? Because they're holding up well against this run defense. But they're not fully tackling yet. So there's been a lot of plays that I've seen where the running backs are not getting anywhere because they're all crunched into the huddle and the defensive players have gotten to the backs. But then I've also seen plays where, they throw a 5-yard screen. The screen game's going to be back this year, you guys. Just you wait. They throw, 5 or 10-yard screen to, I think it was Darius Slayton who took it on the play. No, maybe it was Scattaboo. I've seen a couple to Scattaboo too. But where he takes it and he's off running. So, I think we're going to have a better idea during preseason when these guys can really tackle, because what happens is the running backs are taught to just continue the play, whether or not you've had 2 hands on you or 12 hands on you. So, they're getting the 2-hand touch, but the running backs are still going. The fans are still cheering. But in reality, during a game, he would have been tackled probably 15 yards prior. So, it is a little tough to really gauge what the run defense is going to look like right now. It hasn't been great, but I expect and hope that it's going to improve. So something else that we'll continue to watch. So with that being said, with the rest of the practices coming up, that's a big thing that I'm going to be focused on, is the run defense. Is are they able to close those gaps? We know that the edge rushers are good at putting pressure on the quarterbacks, but can the defensive line do their job? The defensive tackles and the linebackers, especially when Dexter Lawrence is not on the field, because that's the biggest thing we saw last year, right? When Dexter Lawrence took his one play off during a drive, whoever came in there was not nearly good enough at stopping the run. And I think that's still going to be a bit of an issue. Look, it's not easy to replace Dexter Lawrence. You can't replace him, especially with someone on the same team. So, you've got guys who are obviously not going to live up to that, but I do think they're are going to be opportunities for guys like Darius Alexander to step in and make some plays. So I hope that he's able to do that. He hasn't gotten a ton of reps with the ones yet, but I do want to see that from him, and I want to see him force his way into getting more reps with the ones. So, the run defense is obviously really important, something this team needs to improve upon, and something I'm going to be focused on during the next few practices that are open to the public that I'm able to access. The other thing that I'm going to be focused on too is the rest of the quarterbacks, because something that's been talked about and discussed a lot is is Jameis Winston going to get traded? And for a while, I've been very absolutely not. I don't think that's going to happen. But the fact that Jackson Dart is getting, like I said, 99% of the snaps he's getting with the twos. It's not Jameis Winston. It's not Tommy DeVito. It is Jackson Dart. So that, plus the fact that he's progressed every week, obviously preseason is going to be a really big tell for him. And the fact that Tommy DeVito has also looked really good during camp. And I know a lot of us, myself included, I'm just I can't get excited about Tommy DeVito. I'm not going to. He's right now the 3rd or 4th string quarterback. Him and Jameis have been rotating between 3rd and 4th team snaps. So I'm just not going to get excited about him. And Jameis, we all know what he is, right? But you look at these other teams around the league, unfortunately, with these injuries happening, they need backup quarterbacks. And I think you're more likely to get something in a trade for Jameis Winston than you are for Tommy DeVito. So look, preseason is going to be the biggest identifying factor to this, but if Jackson Dart continues to improve every single practice and then he does well in preseason, it's something that I'm going to be looking out for, that it could be a possibility that the Giants do go ahead and trade Jameis Winston. Tommy DeVito does have value because he's been here for a while. And look, they're not getting anything for Tommy DeVito in a trade. But I heard from a beat writer that I trust that he really thinks that the Giants know that if they cut Tommy DeVito, he's not making it through the practice squad, that there are going to be other teams that go ahead and take him because they need a backup quarterback, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. If that's what the Giants think, then so be it. But I don't know. I think they're more likely to be willing to trade Jameis Winston because they're actually going to get something for him. Like, you're not getting a 4th round pick for Tommy DeVito, you know? Are you getting a 4th for Jameis? Maybe if a team is really desperate, but I don't know. I think we're going to see how that plays out. But a couple things I want to continue to watch too is Cam Scatterbo. He's been unbelievable with the reps that he's been getting, and he's been so much fun to watch. And I've gotten some questions about Tyrone Tracy. He also has looked great out there. He's been in the backfield. He's been catching. He's done a nice job as a receiver, and he's had some nice runs. Again, they're not fully tackling, so we'll see once they're in preseason, but I'm not worried about Tracy. He's going to be a really big piece of this offense this year, and I think he's also going to be fun to watch. He is electric. And Neighbors, of course, I think he's going to get a couple days off. They have off today, but I think he'll get a couple days before they think about bringing him back because of whatever's going on with his shoulder, even though it sounds like it's nothing serious, but rest is important, so I'm sure they will do that. And obviously, we need Malik Neighbors week 1 and every week thereafter. So those are a couple things. The last thing is still the wide receiver competition. Are we going to see Jalen Hyatt again? I'm sure we're going to see him on Thursday, but he's been out for a few days now, and before that, he was having a good camp, so I want to see him come back to that and keep up with that momentum and prove that he deserves the wide receiver 4. And then the other wide receiver battle is who is going to make the 6th roster spot. The wide receiver 5 to me is Amir Smith-Marset, and there's no question about that. But the 6th spot, Beau Collins is the best of the group. Dalen Cambry has done a nice job as well. Juice Wells has made some nice catches, but he hasn't really gotten any reps, where Beau Collins was getting some reps with the ones the last few days. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. And, the very last thing is the cornerbacks, but I don't think a decision is going to be made until after preseason. So I think that battle is really going to continue during preseason. So I'm excited to see what goes on between Cordell Flott and Tay Banks. That rotation is still going strong. Lastly, let's just talk through the rest of the practice schedule. So today's Wednesday, they're off today. They have open practice again Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week. They are off Sunday. And then one of the final practices that's open to the public is Monday, August 4th. And then training camp is complete, or training camp as we know it for the fans, is complete, and they have their first game on Saturday against the Bills. So when training camp is over next week, we're going to focus on preseason, wrap up training camp, and talk about, players to watch if anyone is interested during the preseason game. I'm really curious also to see what Dable does about what he decides with the starters. So that's going to be something to watch too. And then the last thing is the Giants-Jets practice that's open to the public on August 13th. I will be there, so I will be reporting to you as soon as I get back with updates from that. And I think that's going to be a really fun one because from what I have heard and what I know about Aaron Glenn, he is tough. He likes to run a physical practice, and I think that is going to be a really good challenge for the Giants. So I'm excited to see what happens. So make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date for more.